Hey everyone, I just got back from bereavement leave.
What?
And boy are my arms tired. How's everyone else doing?
I don't even know how to react to that.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I'm okay. I've been busy because I did the thing that everybody has done in quarantine, and I got a dog a month ago.
Nice. What's your dog's name?
His name is Ted.
Big Ted. Is his full name actually Edward?
No. No, it's Ted Danson.
Nice.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
why didn't I know that? That's amazing.
Allie, how about you?
I'm doing all right. I wrote a little pandemic poem, if you'd like to hear it.
Yes.
Please.
It's a bit of a downer, so prep yourselves.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
It's a limerick, too, which is one of my favorite styles of poetry. I don't really write poetry, by the way, but the limerick just, rolls off the tongue.
This isn't like one of those like body limericks, is it?
No, there once was a man from Nantucket kind.
Yeah. Keeping it clean for our audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this week at least. There once was a global pandemic and racism that was systemic. We all lost our minds, wanted to unwind, and our drinking became endemic.
Oh.
I just rhymed with pandemic twice. I mean, I want some points for that.
Yeah. I'm both impressed and a little depressed. And now I'm rhyming. What have you done to me? We just completely ignored Joe that whole time.
Okay, Joe, how are you doing?
I am doing good. I'm having some technical difficulties. So,
Yes, tell us about your appliances.
yes, our listeners will be interested really to know a great deal about what's going on with my personal life. Yeah, I am currently waiting for a dishwasher to come and to take away my old dishwasher. So if our audience, if you're listening and you hear something in the background, that's probably the good people at Best Buy coming to pick up my dishwasher.
We love Best Buy, a good Minnesota company.
Well, that leads into our topic for today pretty well. We're talking about virtual court proceedings, which don't always go according to plans. We're just going to talk about how things have been going with that over the last several months. Welcome to Fine Laws Don't Judge Me, the podcast about the real life of lawyering. I'm Laura Temme, and I'm joined by Andy Leonati.
Yo.
Joe Fawbush.
Hey, y'all.
And Allie Marshall.
Hello.
I didn't know we were doing accent work in this episode. I would have prepared
3-day
more.
weekend imminent. Everyone's already losing it.
We're already losing it completely. So we're talking about virtual court today and how that's been going over the last several months. In an earlier episode, we talked about Zoom fails and some other stuff, so I'm sure we'll talk more about clothing issues and what did I say? Donald ducking.
That's better than like Daffy ducking, which is just completely
Is that
without
no clothes?
Donald Duck at least wore a shirt.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
So did Pooh Bear. What's with just the shirt?
Yeah.
Why, I wonder? Why as children did we not question that?
My 4-year-old does think pants are an optional piece of clothing. So
Yeah, but grown men out there, I'm sorry, pants are not optional.
Especially when you're doing
No.
a virtual court hearing.
But talking with my former law partner who still practices about how this whole, court situation is going, and she's in court fairly frequently. And she just was like, there's a version of me that's in court that judges respond to, that opposing counsel tends to respond to, and there's a different version at home. And that one is not as successful. Like it's harder to get some of that across.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, is because the body language is so important. Like that personal connection gets interrupted by that virtual experience, and especially it's in family law, like that matters in those situations. And not like she can't effectively advocate for her clients, but it's definitely different, and it's more of a challenge on figuring out how you break that barrier.
Has she tried standing up and like away from the camera like this so she can be like so she
I just want to let everyone know that Andy is currently
so that
rolling
she
his
can be
chair
like,
away from the
hey,
camera.
objection.
I don't know. I haven't seen one of these in action recently. But yeah, I mean, I personally too can imagine like how hard that is to advocate, having practiced like that interpersonal, like it's harder for a judge to say no to somebody when they're there in person versus remote. I feel like that's got to be true. It's got to affect how decisions are made.
Judges are just like passive Midwesterners in court.
You mean like like in virtual
No, I mean when you
settings?
say harder to say no in person.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, no, I mean I think it's just like it's more personal when the person is there. Maybe they're again, family law, maybe it's more emotional, but like, they're having that connection and the judge can talk to them right away in person. And it's like, I don't know, there's just more of that personal interaction that I think is lost.
Allie, what kind of things is she doing in virtually? I mean, they're not having trials or anything. Are they?
Yeah, I think some trials are for happening virtually. I don't know that all of them. I think it depends. It's like maybe a judge by judge, county by county basis, but
Yeah. I don't think, but no one is doing jury trials right now, correct?
Actually, in Texas, I think they've done a few different jury trials. And actually, they've also done
okay.
a minor criminal thing with like a traffic ticket, like a speeding through a construction zone. I was reading about this the other day, and yeah, they actually got jurors on their smartphones and their tablets, and
Oh wow.
yeah, they had to, jury selection was interesting because they had to dismiss like 5 jurors just for technical issues. And yeah, there's all sorts of like, Allie, what you were talking about with, being able to convince people in person is a lot more difficult over video. So I don't think that they're going to do it for anything serious. I mean, obviously this was a traffic offense, so it's not like, the person was facing jail time. But yeah, I'd imagine that for the same thing with criminals as with family, like, if you're litigating, I'd almost push to not have any trials over video. I think that would be extremely hard to do.
But what if they're like incarcerated and then you have the speedy trial issue and like you know what I mean? And they don't have the money to get themselves out and they're effectively jailed. I wonder if I haven't read up on this, but if they're releasing some pending their trial.
Some states have been doing that. And then other places just show a like stunning lack of empathy for like anyone's like constitutional rights.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, and that's not even
Crazy.
for just criminal defendants. I mean, if you're injured in a car accident and your attorney can't necessarily threaten trial the same way that she could have if, courts were open. I mean, it's a lot harder to get a settlement that you would otherwise because that threat of trial isn't there, maybe to the same extent anyway.
Yeah. Or it is, but it's more removed because it's maybe next year or the year after. Or it's even more prolonged than
and
normal.
if you need money sooner rather than later, that might be leverage to settle for less.
I never thought about that. That's sad.
Yeah. There's a lot I mean, I think that some people probably find it actually more accessible, the system this way, because it almost like levels the playing field in a way if you can get some basic technical foundation to have access and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It seems that there are some advantages here as far as making it more accessible. One thing I was thinking about was people not having to travel to the courthouse. If somebody doesn't have a car or things, they don't have to pay for transport. They're not paying for parking. They're not taking as much time off of work to go to the courthouse. The only problem with that is that, of course, sometimes, a laptop and good Wi-Fi are also hard to come by. So it's kind of a mixed
I have
bag.
seen that people who are getting evicted are much more likely to attend a hearing regarding their eviction now. With a lot of people being out of work, they probably have more time. And then, with the eviction, with being able to zoom in, if you can get to a public library, something like that, you can still actually probably zoom in through there. So yeah, there are some benefits. It's not all doom and gloom.
Does it make it harder for someone to, you don't get to confer with your attorney in the same way unless you go to your attorney's office or something, and you both, you and your attorney are sitting there. Wear your masks if you're next to each other, by the way, and you don't live in the same household. But
yeah, no, it's a really
you know
good
what I
point.
mean? You can't.
Yeah.
You can't whisper to your attorney.
Yeah. Yeah, I have heard of people using the Zoom breakout rooms to do sort of sidebar conversations with their attorney. But yeah, you can't have that sort of spontaneous conversation.
Yeah.
What if you think you're going to a breakout room and then you say like, okay, yeah, I totally did it, but it sounds like... and then it's...
And then opposing counsel is there too. Yeah.
Half the time as an attorney, you're trying to keep your client from saying things, and then when they think that it's okay and you think it, yeah, man. Oh.
Well, and it's not just if making a mistake. I mean, these meetings are being recorded, or if, like you're in Teams instead of Zoom and you're in the chat and you start typing things that maybe you don't want other people to see.
Who would do that?
None of us would do that.
No, of course not. But I mean, then it is so what do you do with that recording / evidence? How private is it? How, those kinds of things are very new issues that I don't think there's a resolution for. I mean, hopefully that would be, but.
Yeah, I've seen things from a few states where they're deleting the recordings after the fact. But, with stuff like that, you're always kind of just taking someone's word for it. It's okay, it's been deleted, but has it been? Is it still in the cloud?
Yeah. If you think the judge is being a dick or like someone is lying about, a witness is lying about you or whatever, just keep it to yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Written. I mean, there's nothing like getting an email to yourself about you that wasn't meant to be,
Oh.
So my law partner.
Did that happen?
Yes, this happened to her, opposing counsel, and the best part is her reaction to it, which was, she's like, yeah. I mean, he said basically to his client, well, he thought it was his client, but it was actually her. What a blank, and had a.
Oh,
so
yes.
She made T-shirts.
Yes.
That's incredible. I love that.
But yeah, I mean, and that's part of it. Like, look, we know that part of the advocacy back and forth, passions get inflamed and whatever, and people get riled up, and that's fine. I mean, you have to have a thick skin and a sense of humor about it. But yeah, so there's just a little bit more care that you have to take when you're putting it in writing versus having, like you said, Andy, that little side conversation.
I did also kind of want to mention that the whole broadcasting, since we're talking about putting stuff out there that we don't really maybe want seen. I mean, a lot of trials at least are public information. A lot of court proceedings are public. It's kind of an interesting balancing act between allowing the public to access a trial and then just posting it live on YouTube for people who are just mildly curious about a, murder case or whatever. You're going to get a lot more people watching these things. And is that an issue for certain proceedings?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Because when it's happening live, you can go, but it's not right. It's not on TV. You have to go be in person in the gallery.
Yeah.
And like even some public records, they're I'll put that in air quotes. They're not actually out there in the public. You have to go to the courthouse. You have to sign them out. Like you have to have a sort of like legit reason to be doing some of that, and it's different now.
I am a big fan of video cameras in the Supreme Court, so I don't really have much of an issue with that. I mean, people should kind of, I mean, I know it opens the door to like more grandstanding by the attorneys if they know TV cameras are there. I don't know if that outweighs like more people actually having some knowledge about like how the judicial system works, because most people's knowledge of it is like stunningly absent.
Yeah, and Andy, I would agree with you for appellate cases. I'm more thinking about trials and lower courts.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
then it involves people who aren't necessarily wanting to draw attention to it. But yeah, for the fact that the Supreme Court finally let us listen to oral arguments live, I thought that was long overdue, and I was glad that the pandemic finally forced the Supreme Court to do that.
Yeah, you need transparency, but you also need to protect the people who are participating in the process, or no one's going to want to, like witnesses and family members and victims, and they're not going to want to do it if it's like just broadcast, everywhere, or like you said, Joe, a YouTube video.
It's also true. I never thought of that in terms of like someone conducting a background check or something like that, and then all of a sudden your DUI trial is on YouTube.
No, I was just going to say that going back to Texas, because Texas has really kind of embraced this more so than most other states. One of their solutions was to post the video onto their YouTube channel live and then immediately take it down afterwards, which seems like a decent balance between, because then at least if you're interested in it, you at least have to be there live. And, that does offer some limitation. It's not like, you can just scroll through whatever trials catches your eye.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution, because I've heard of courts broadcasting most of their proceedings, and then you've got, I think it's the New York City courts, they're not broadcasting anything. And so if somebody wants to come in and watch, the participants are still on Zoom or some kind of web platform, but the people who want to come watch still have to come physically to the courthouse and watch it on a screen. So then you've got issues of, social distancing and stuff like that. And so it just sort of, there's still an issue. So yeah, I think that, having it up and then taking it down when it's over makes a lot of sense.
I will say this, though, that, I mean, I don't know. I think we've all been a little bit in denial about how long this is going to be and what it will mean for how we change how we do business. But like, if we can, with 1960s technology, send people to the moon and land and bring them safely back, we can figure this out, right? Like, we can do it.
Oh, yeah. Think of that scene in Apollo 13 where he's like, we got to figure out a way to make this fit into that size hole using nothing but this stuff on the table.
People are amazing. Like, let's MacGyver this, right? I mean, and protect constitutional rights.
Yeah, I mean, because that's an interest. Because I don't think the technology is insurmountable in terms of just getting it done. But there is something to be said for being, like, not being able to replace being there in person. I mean, I recently wrote about how most lawyers want to go back into the office for this reason, just because they want to talk to their colleagues in person. They want to, be able to walk things through, and it's not always easy to set up a Zoom or a Teams chat if you just kind of have a single question where you'd pop your head in. And I still think that's true even if the technology is flawless. There have been studies that, for example, people seeking asylum are much more likely to have their requests denied if they're doing it over video conference, because they're not in the room. It's a little easier to think of them as, not really here.
Yeah.
It's not in front of you. It's hard to, do those nonverbal cues like you were talking about, Allie. So I do think there are some things that you just can't mimic with current technology, even though you can come close.
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't think we can completely roll back. Whenever all of this is over, I don't think all of this is going to completely go away. I think there's places where it would make sense to keep doing things this way. I'm thinking about like scheduling conferences. Do attorneys really need to travel possibly to another city all the way to the courthouse to have a 30-minute meeting with the judge?
At the client's expense.
Right, and they are now holding them over Zoom. I think that's the kind of thing where we could keep this sort of practice.
Yep.
Yeah, well, in Social Security disability hearings, they've been doing those over video conference for years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think there's room to expand.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm thinking more along those, serious criminal trials where there are, constitutional issues. And like if a juror is at home scrolling through their Facebook when they're supposed to be on the, on Zoom, that would be almost impossible to get a conviction in that case, because all you'd have to do as an attorney is say, juror misconduct. I saw juror 6, wasn't paying attention, and it's recorded. Here it is, and then all of a sudden you get a new trial.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too as this fall goes on, like how this will progress within the courts and whether they're going to be moving a little bit more towards pushing some of these cases through that need to be tried, and or coming up with a creative solution for how we resolve them. And maybe more defendants will choose bench trials if it's in a criminal situation.
I want to harken back to your MacGyver comment that instead of like people putting their brains together to solve this problem and make it like this, so maybe defendants can do this stuff, instead we're just going to have like some deep fake videos of like, oh, did the media just totally ignore when Donald Trump was on trial for murder 2 years ago? Here's the trial footage.
Don't
Or
give
like
them ideas.
or like Joe, the same with Joe Biden. We're gonna have to like talk about Joe Biden's 10-year-old murder trial with the video with the video footage.
That's actually, though, a great concern. Fraud in court proceedings. I mean, are there things you can doctor and then put up on the video conferencing? I mean, so yeah, fraud and deepfakes are sadly a concern. We're kind of in this brave new world territory that is starting to get a little bit frightening.
All right, and with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Andy will have something completely different.
Artificial intelligence continues to reshape America's legal system. One sophisticated AI tool is QuickCheck Judicial, which analyzes multiple filings from a single matter, showing judges what cases you and your opponent did or did not cite. This gives judges greater insight into both sides' arguments. But what if you could gain that same insight using the same tool your judge has? Well, now you can. QuickCheck Judicial is coming later this summer. Be the first to see it. Visit tr.com/quick-check.
All right, Andy, I'm told that you have a story to tell us.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. I have.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I'm phoning it in this week. I put a lot of work into the true crime episode, and I'm a little burnt out.
It's cool. It's cool. That's fine. This is. It would have taken you just as long to kind of sum up what I was going to talk about as it's going to take me to tell the listeners. So because this one, we've got a little still unfolding legal and political drama in Virginia that's complicated and also at the same time seems extremely stupid. And if it's another big win for common law and people who say that they care about law and order but don't actually understand what that means. So we've got in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, police earlier this month announced that they were going to file charges against State Senator Louise Lucas, local NAACP officials, the city's top public defender, other attorneys in her office, and a school board member for felony injury to a monument.
Okay. Why do I have a feeling the Confederacy is involved in this?
I'm just gonna leave that. I'm just gonna leave that charge name there because I don't think any further jokes are necessary about it. Lucas, the Senate President pro temp of Virginia, the highest-ranking black female elected official in the state of Virginia, was present at a protest in June, but she was not there at night when some Confederate monuments were pretty righteously wrecked and defaced. So the serving of the arrest warrant also comes right at the same time as the Virginia General Assembly is debating a package of policing reform measures. And I'll also note that the police did not seek a warrant through nor consult with the local Commonwealth's attorney office in investigating this case. Instead, they went through the office of the magistrate. So they completely cut out the prosecutor's office from this as well. Prosecutor said they had nothing to do with it, blah, 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 blah. So it does not end there. That is really only the first half of it.
I'm already confused. Are you kidding me?
I was just gonna say I'm gonna need a timeline. I'm gonna need a map.
So the protest happened in June, but the arrest warrants happened about today is September 3rd. This unfolded about 2 weeks ago with the arrest warrants. And then Lucas's daughter, Portsmouth Vice Mayor Lisa Lucas Burke, then called for Police Chief Angela Green's ouster because of the criminal charges. But Portsmouth has a city charter that gives most powers over personnel to a unelected city manager, which, a position that's very popular nowadays, especially in suburbs and other cities that like to have people unaccountable to voters. So the city charter has a clause about non-interference in appointments or removals of city personnel. Basically, you cannot try and coerce the city manager into making certain personnel decisions. So a private citizen named Tommy Dubois, the busiest of busybodies, filed a criminal complaint with the local magistrate charging the vice mayor, Lisa Lucas Burke, with a misdemeanor violation of the city charter. And a magistrate judge signed off on it, forcing Lisa Lucas Burke to have to appear in court to respond to the charge. If convicted, she would lose her vice mayor and city council positions.
This honestly, this sounds like an episode of Parks and Recreation. What's happening?
Does,
right
yeah.
It does. I was just gonna say vice mayor.
I am not suggesting this, but many people are likely to think that there is something afoot here. One could look at this and see it as a ham-fisted attempt to intimidate and silence proponents of police reform. I'm not suggesting that's the case, but also the craziest nugget of this saga to me is learning that Virginia citizens can bring forward misdemeanor criminal complaints through a magistrate's office. And all you have to do is get a judge to sign off on it. No police, no prosecutors, no nothing. This seems completely insane to me. I mean, a judge does have to sign off on it.
But yeah, a citizen being able to bring criminal charges against someone else is pretty wild.
Well, only when you think about the people who are going to take advantage of that situation.
Well, exactly. The people who have the time on their hands to know what sort of code they could bring this under are people that I'm not sure I want to deal with.
15 minutes of Googling easily revealed to me how easy it is for someone with an axe to grind can take advantage of this.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple workers in Virginia Beach who worked at the municipal building where the mass shooting took place last year, who survived, refused to come back into work in the building where it happened because they were traumatized, scared, whatever. One of those employees, who apparently quite animatedly told his bosses that he wasn't going to do it and he was going to go to HR about it, his bosses filed a disorderly conduct charge against him.
Oh.
What a great way to resolve disputes. Let's just all file criminal charges against each other.
A judge signed off on it. The man spent a day in jail, and it only took some local news coverage and then justifiable outrage for these guys to look like the giant horses' asses that they were and for them
Right.
to drop the charges. And in a lot of hours of looking around this week, I wasn't able to find a comprehensive list, but states besides Virginia, which I think has pretty much the most like liberal interpretation of this stuff, we've got North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Idaho, New Hampshire, all allow this in some form.
So this would be one of those laws that I would be really curious about the legislative history behind it. Like, what were they trying? They had to have some goal they were trying to achieve. What would it have been?
A lot of it is based in the old like common law concept of private prosecutions and
I'm disappointed that we're not on the list. I've been thinking about what criminal charges I would file against all of you.
Oh, wow.
And now I don't have anything.
Mine would probably just be nuisance.
Mine would be like foul language in public or something.
yeah. And then the best thing I found was that in Nebraska, if 10% of a county's registered voters who participated in the most recent state gubernatorial election sign a petition, they can impanel a grand jury.
What?
Say that again? Yeah.
I got lost in gubernatorial.
Sorry, Andy.
You can require a district court to convene a grand jury upon a petition signed by at least 10% of the registered voters of the county who cast votes for the office of governor in the most recent election.
Man, that's specific.
Yeah.
That does seem to require a lot of signatures, though.
And a lot of verification.
I mean, it would take work. My dad will I'm sure my dad there is who's listening is thinking about Gomer Pyle instituting a citizen's arrest on Barney Fife for an illegal U-turn. It just seems like in Virginia, anyone can do that. And I think that is completely nuts. And now it's apparently being used to get people to keep quiet and just say that all law enforcement is cool.
Oof, that took a turn.
So this is obviously still unfolding. There are court appearances to be done and a lot of criticism to be leveled in the media and such. So rest assured, I will be keeping an eye on this. Everyone else is probably too confused still to know what's happening. Yeah, but I will keep an eye on all of this so none of you have to.
I think I need a little time to chew on this. And that's all we have for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us on Fine Laws Don't Judge Me. Please rate and review our show wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out lp.finelaw.com for other related content.
And I think that is completely nuts.
Ted,
I think Ted does too.
Yeah, Ted thinks it's a load of crap.
Ted agrees.
no. No.
Oh, now I can see him.
No.
Look at that big doofus. He's like, hey, hey.